Hello, yes. Welcome back to the Lil RES podcast, also known as the Refreshing Entertainment Sessions podcast. It is 55 degrees out and sunny, breaking the cloudy streak. It's been overcast the last couple of times. It's funny, you can't even tell after I've color corrected the image. So, like, I feel like I always say it's cloudy, and then you look at it and you're like, well, the room's like very bright. It looks fine. But that's just because I've like done the color correction. But yeah, it's nice to have a sunny day. I mean, there have been sunny days, just not on filming days. Um, Here's the gnocchi of the screen, gnocchi of the day, wherever it is on the screen. Um, I'll take the clip of gnocchi when we were doing the pre-show setup where she's walking on the couch. I'll put that on the screen because I did not take a picture. Here's the hat of the day. It is my pretty boy hat from OmoCat. I bought this long time ago. I don't know when. But it's a fun hat. People seem to like this hat. How are you doing today, Richard?
I'm good. I kind of woke up craving McDonald's French fries.
Mm,
And they're like cheaper on Fridays. So I think
they're
after this
cheaper on
podcast I will
Fridays?
get some. Yeah, if you have the app.
Wait, what's
Yeah.
the app deal on Fridays?
I think it's like dollar large fries or something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
It's something silly. But yeah, I went for a run yesterday as well, and so on days I go running, I always wake up craving salty, carby
Yeah,
foods.
yeah. You, how long did you run? Shock the viewers with how, not shock, but just spill the beans, Richard. How long was your run?
I, I'd say it was an average run. It was about 12 miles.
12 miles. I saw
Yeah.
I saw you know the what is it? You know those two Australian brothers who do like comedy skits? They're like Fair
And Callum or
it's like
whatever.
two of them. One of them, I don't remember their names, but one of them is kind of like the straight man.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." I don't know. And then the other one's like more he's also a straight man, but he's like a unhinged straight man and he's like blah, 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 blah. I can't. It's not helpful at all. Do you know who I'm talking about though? They did
Yeah,
the
yeah, no, I've seen them.
I'm already Tracer skit like a long time ago. Um Anyways, they had a TikTok that I saw the other day where one of them is like, "Oh yeah, I like ran a marathon." And the other one's like, "You can't just like be good at running out of nowhere. That's like not fair." And I saw that, I was like, that's literally Richard because that's literally what he did. You did your first marathon without training and then just do marathons all the time now.
Yeah, yeah. But marathons are nice because I usually get in a Discord session while I'm jogging, running
Yeah,
with you
yeah.
guys. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
The last one I ran was during the WNBA finals.
Yes, yes. Um
So we got to watch
we
Caitlin
got to watch
Clark's
that.
really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
performance, but an insurmountable loss because the team just there's only one Caitlin Clark
There's
on the
only
team.
one. Yeah. You yeah, what Richard does is he runs 20 miles to like a restaurant, and not even like a fancy restaurant all the time, like an Applebee's or something sometimes. And then he just hangs out, eats a ton of food because you just ran 20 miles. And then you take like the train back usually?
I'll take the train back, or I'll try and run to like a restaurant that like is actually kind of near my house. So it's like
Mm.
it would be like a half-mile walk to get there, but I take like a 26-mile loop to get to arrive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes
It's
sense.
borderline unhinged behavior, but
I don't
it's
think it's
fun. It's
unhinged. I
fun.
think it's if you got it, you flaunt it, right? But it's not literally
Yeah, yeah.
flaunting. It's like, hey, if you like running and you can do it, might as well do it.
We were talking about this at the pre-show, but like we're both really caffeine sensitive, and
Yes.
that's like the goat for running. Oh my gosh, because it makes you just really in the zone. Because if I were to just look down 5.5 hours of running sober, I'd be like, what the hell? Like, why would anyone want that? But when you have the caffeine and you just kind of get lost in it, you also have good music or like a podcast. It's nice. it makes working actually really hard though, because it like your brain kind of gets trained to like glaze over because you're jogging for so long. So then you're at like a meeting where you kind of have to pay attention, kind of don't, and your brain like has a much quicker pathway to just being like, yeah, I'm just gonna tune this one out, my guys.
It's like too meditative. You're like meditative,
Yeah.
like mental muscles are like too strong. Your your ability to find focus is like seamless, too seamless now.
And it's for the web, just taking it back, the weather here, it's a little bit drizzly. But it was very nice yesterday, and it will be very nice going forward. So that's been nice. How is it in your world?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh man, have I been introspective recently? I don't know if I have an opinion on how I've been. I've been fine. I don't know. I've been fine. Like not the oh just okay whatever fine. Like I'm like yeah, I think it's good. Um Work's been good. I finished a scene that I was really excited to work on yesterday. Um, and I think I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I can I can feel the dividends paying off from like my creative skill work uh from like the past year and a half. I don't know how long yeah. I don't know exactly how long it's been since I started. I think I've been saying a year and a half for a while now, but it doesn't matter. But I spent so much time making stuff creatively, and I think I'm finally starting to get more ease there. It's interesting, like different things. It's easier or harder for me to start flowing with. Um, so like for the writing code, I can get into flow so easily. Code is like the thing with writing code is that regardless of how long it takes me or however hard the problem is or whatever that I'm trying to solve, um, just time spent writing code, not just writing, but just the whole process, time spent doing programming, goes by really fast and really effortlessly for me. I just don't have to think very, I shouldn't say I don't have to think very hard about it because, like, there's going to be problems that are difficult, but I I just don't I just get on task and then I just stay on task until it's done. And if that takes like 4 hours, it's just a very seamless 4 hours because I think I've treaded those paths so many times that like it's just like, okay, I know what to do next. There aren't moments where I hit hitches because if I do, I know what to do instead. I'm like, oh, okay, well, when you first start learning a code, I think I've talked about this before. Beginners get really caught up with the idea of like having to debug. They think it's a bad thing. They're like, "Oh, every time I debug, it's like this reminder that I suck at coding." And they try and minimize how much debugging they do, and they take debugging as a signal that they're doing something wrong. Versus when you interview and like survey professionals or like experts, they're like, yeah, debugging is literally just part of the process. It's inevitable, it's inescapable, and if you're doing it, it's normal. Um, and I think I can do that for coding, and I think I'm starting to get that a little bit for animation too. The animating for the scene was pretty seamless. Um, and I think writing, I've also had this for a while. I don't get too stuck on writing because have I talked about it on the podcast before? Yeah, I think like I've talked about switching gears. I think I'm very good at switching gears when I'm writing. If I get stuck, I just switch gears immediately and then I can keep going. And it's just nice. So yeah, I feel the creative dividends paying. I was also thinking, I was like, you know what? I genuinely do have hundreds and hundreds of hours of miscellaneous creative reps at this point. So they're starting to
Yeah.
stack up. Like I was like doing the mental napkin math and I was like, okay, like cuz StarCraft is going to be in it's hard to exactly tabulate, but by the time it's done, that's like 500 to like 1,000 hours of work just on that project, which I don't know, it sounds ridiculous. That sounds like so much. How could that project have taken so much time? But it's just because I'm doing every little thing on it, from the research, the writing, narrative, editing, animation, graphic design. I'm touching it all, and it's taking me forever because it's a lot, and I'm treating it like a film. I'm trying to take it seriously. I'm not trying to skimp on anything. Which I think is great for learning. Moving forward, I'm just not gonna do that again if I want to make a like the one man film is not a viable YouTube strategy. Unless you're like already huge and proven. But like this is like my first video ever longer than like 45 minutes. Just way too much. Okay, I was on a huge ramble there, but I want to cap it off with one last thing. Last week, I had a little spiel about how I played a ranked session with Donkey Kong. It didn't go well, and I was like, oh, now I have to live with the fact that I'm not going to reach my goal of getting gold rank with Donkey Kong. It is what it is, but that's a little difficult to stomach. But psych, who cares about any of that stuff? Because it turns out that all I had to do was go on a 19-3, 3.5 hour ranked session where I was just a machine. I had an 86% win rate the day before the ranked season closed, and I just grinded. I don't know, everything clicked, and I just went through a tear, went from silver 2 all the way up to gold 1 with a net positive win rate of 19 games. What did I go? 22-3? I don't remember what I said.
You said 19-3?
19-3. Some ludicrous like to be for context, my win rate up until this point over literally 200 sets was 50%. I had a 50% win rate over 200 sets. And just mathematically, if you flip the coin that many times, it's so improbable. So obviously I got better. It wasn't luck. Although luck probably was in some way on my side. But yeah, I don't know. I just went on a tear. I called you right after I got gold, and I was beaming. I don't think I felt that good in a long time, because that was like half a year of work just culminating into like just like, there's the hedonistic treadmill, but if you keep winning, you never butt up against the like, you're just like, oh shit, like I'm just never going down.
And yeah, the way that you made it to being like on such a streak is like, it's probably like, you don't get that in life a lot unless you're doing like bad behaviors like gambling and stuff like that. Like, it's so rare that when you're progressing to just have like a random streak like that. Like, it's never exactly linear, right? But like it's also rarely like whoom, like just straight up like that.
It's so interesting. It was a really nice reminder of the non-linearity of learning and the like random upshot of when things just like I was saying, like they just click. And I mean, you've probably had this experience before. I've like you just sometimes like an athlete like goes off or whatever, and they're like talking to the athlete, and they're like, yeah, just it just clicked. And that's a day-to-day performance thing, but also sometimes with like more longitudinal learning, you just finally you hit this inflection point where all these disparate things that like couldn't quite synergize with each other yet finally do, and the returns are just tremendous. Yeah, it was so gratifying. Definitely changed my brain chemistry for the better. Just reinforcing like, yeah, just it's the meme of the miner like don't quit, like the diamonds are right there. Like 90% of gamblers quit before their big win. But it's true. If when it comes to learning, if you don't stop, you can't lose, cuz it doesn't stop working as long as you do the right things. There's ways to do learning where you're not going to be learning very effectively and you're not going to make very much progress. You're probably going to stagnate. But as long as you're caring enough about doing the right things, you'll get better. You just got to keep going. It'll hit eventually.
And especially for like the people that like aren't as familiar with like ladder based like ranking systems and stuff, like you managed to progress, albeit very slowly, at around the 50% win rate. Like you can progress at a 51% win rate, a 52% win rate, because you take that as like wins minus losses. Like a 52% win rate. That's 52 wins. That's 48 losses. That you're up a net 4. 52 minus 48 is like plus 4.
Yeah.
And so like you just happen to do it like very quickly.
Yeah.
Because that's 86 minus 14 out for 100%. That's net 70.
Yeah, it was
net
a
76
pretty big difference.
or 72.
Yeah. That's like the simple math for it.
Yeah. That it's obviously not fully accurate, but just as a concept, that's
Sure.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how learning usually should be, or that's like the normal way. Learning is slow. Like by default, you should expect things to happen very slowly. Like, I think that one reason why a lot of people aren't learners or don't identify with the don't identify as feeling like learners is because you're just not gonna feel it naturally because it's just at such a slow time scale. It can be very imperceptible unless you have like artifacts that can show your progress clearly across time. Like when artists are like, this is what my drawing looked like 1 year ago, this is what my drawing looks like today. That kind of helps you give you contrast. But on the day-to-day basis, you're not going to see it because it's volatile. You're not going to see it because it's slow. And then you go on a massive win streak, and then you do see it all at once.
Gosh, I know. It's such a good feeling. You've had a similar experience. It wasn't exactly quite like that, where like it was like just getting it in time. Because you and me both used to play Hearthstone quite a bit. You actually got me into we spent one summer like a lot of time around each other, and we were really into it then.
Summer of Harrison living with Richard.
Yeah, the Rich Res summer. Featuring like lots of like 9-10 p.m. half price apps at Applebee's. Which when you're in high school, like that is like the closest you can get to like freedom and like without the responsibility like in your life. It's nice. if you're living a pretty like quiet suburban area and you don't do a lot of partying, like half price apps at Applebee's is true freedom.
Yeah, it's
late night.
It's at least at the time. I don't know how much half price apps cost nowadays, or if it's even a thing. It's got to still be a thing, right?
Yeah.
But the sheer decadence is not the right word. Not surplus, just you have a lot of food.
A lot of food at a sit down restaurant.
At a sit down restaurant, you pay like $10 for like a plate of boneless wings, but you're not getting one plate. You're getting 2 or 3 plates.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was also like a third place too, which was really nice.
Yeah,
like,
it is very strong third place energy.
My third places have like I don't have a reliable third place right now, and I definitely like feel its absence. Like I really enjoy having like a spot to go to.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't have like a strong third place, but I do like the Y a lot. I'm getting pretty cozy at the Y. I just am like when I'm there, I'm like I've been here so many times at this point, and I go so routinely that I see the same people so much that I just feel very comfortable when I'm there, which I think it's like that's supposed to be like the YMCA experience, right? That's what their like brand is, but you do feel it after a while because you're just like, yeah, I like that this building serves my community. That's like its function.
Yeah. The Y is awesome. I work out. I work out at the Y as well. Big fan. But anyways, going back to the summer, so we got into this game called Hearthstone right when it was like super early on, and this guy named Ben Brode was still the developer. Or was he a developer? He was like a community person.
The lead game
I don't
designer.
know. Yeah. And so I remember you were the first one in our friend group to make Legend. You did it with a Warlock Zoo deck for the final push, I believe.
No.
Um,
So I got
no.
close to legend on that push. I got to
Okay.
like rank 2 or something. And for context, for people who don't know the Hearthstone rankings, you just go from like 25 all the way down to 1. And then when you get past 1, you hit a special rank called legend, where you're given a number that just specifies like where you are, like in your region, like what rank you are in the region as a number. So it'd be like,
And
yeah.
it's oh, sorry. Oh, and it's absolutely brutal too, because you know exactly how many stars you have left to make it to legend. But for every win, you get a star. For every loss, you get a star taken away. And for reference, in Hearthstone, a good win rate on a deck, like a very good win rate is like 56% sustainably.
Yeah, like I would
maybe
say, like,
if you're elite, you can do like 60%. But like if you're just like even like an upper 98% win rate is probably like 55%.
yeah, I guess I'm trying to think. I wish I had my heart stats numbers, because I used to have like so much data on all of my climbs. But yeah, I would agree. Like if you're doing like 55 to 60% win rate, like you're doing pretty well. Like that's in the reliably successful zone. Well, because yeah, like the first time I got legend, so it wasn't with the warlock deck. It wasn't with Zoo. I got close with Zoo,
Mm.
but my skills weren't there yet. Um, the first time I got it was with a tempo mage deck before people were playing tempo decks.
Yeah.
This was like I found it on like it's just this random guy's like list, this his deck list. He was like, "Yeah, I'm trying this new thing where I'm just like putting in as much tempo as I can in my deck and trying to run my opponent over." And I was like, "Okay, this sounds compelling. It's interesting to do with mage because you have so much burn. You can like attack the face directly." I don't know. It's hard to talk about Hearthstone without using the specific terminology. But the tempo mage, I hopped on it like right when I was good enough at the game and when it was very meta breaking enough that like I had a pretty solid, yeah, I think I was in like the 55-ish% zone. I mean, it still took me a while though to make that push. Um
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially because it's like when you get down to the high ranks, like I think rank 10 and beyond, or maybe it's rank 5 and beyond, you need 5 stars. You need 5 wins to advance to the next level.
Yeah, it's
And
when you get rank 5,
there's
you need
no
a plus 25. You need to have net 25 wins from rank 5 on to get to legend, which is, yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, especially when within those levels there's no minimum floor, so you can just fall all the way back to like bottom
Yeah.
5.
Yeah,
Like you can
Yeah, what would the math be? Net 25 on
so
like a
if you have a
60% win rate?
55 if you have if you have a 55% win rate, that's 55 minus 45. That's 10 wins. So that's every 100 games you go up 10.
You go up 10.
So
yeah, so it's 250
yeah, so
games
if you
just to get to
250
legend.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. That formula is like awesome, but it's also so intimidating because you realize what the heck you're staring down.
Yeah.
Like you're like honestly, it reminds me a bit of my running. It's a grind. It's a grind.
Oh, yeah.
The ladder is a freaking grind.
It's a total marathon because you have to play a lot of games. There's no way around it unless you have like a really, I mean, there are ways around it. Like some metas, like playing aggro was very good, especially like early into the meta because aggro gets solved the fastest for deck lists because it's just the simplest archetype. And in those metas, you could get legend in like 1-2 days if you had the right aggro list that was just like a little bit more optimized than all the other deck lists. As an aggro player, I love aggro decks. I got legend I think 3 times total and is basically always with an aggro deck. But I did one with Paladin, I remember, and I think I might have done one with like a shaman aggro deck. Something like that. You've gone legend. I don't even know how many times you've gone legend. Like 10 times? Is that too many times?
I think it's at minimum 6. I think it's somewhere between 8 to 10. Sounds right. Yeah, and because I've played that game for so long,
It's
and
'cause-
I
your base level, your floor just got too high.
Yeah.
um,
You start to see the game like as like, oh man. And I would also, like you, I'm a huge aggro enjoyer.
yeah.
I personally think my brain just doesn't have the patience when you're doing a long marathon to do all the controls and resource management that comes with a control, or
Yeah.
even honestly like mid-range decks. With aggro, you control early or you just go face.
Yeah.
You have a couple key decision points that like if you're playing aggro versus aggro, half the time, like more than half the time, you should just win by controlling the opponent and then you
Yep.
get to kill them. Like and so that was really fun for me. It felt like a very dynamic experience, and the games were just shorter because if I'm playing
Mm-hmm.
250, 300 games, I would happily sacrifice one or two win point percentages for like games that are one quarter of the time. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
not even particularly
Aggro games are
close.
so much faster because yeah, you're right. Like you get to figure out so quickly if you're even going to be able to hit your win condition or not.
Yeah.
And so like once you're not, it's you can concede early, which is just like it's very metagamey, but it matters, right? Cutting down how long you're playing increases your overall speed of progression. It's it is weird. It
Totally.
is weird because Hearthstone is like your rank is reflective of your skill inherently, but there's a lot of stuff factored into it that has like nothing to do with like in-game skill and everything to do with like how good are you
Totally.
at the specific skill of laddering.
Because I remember, I think I made ladder. Not in. I don't know if I ever made it the first. I think I made it within the first 24 hours at least once.
I think you did, yeah.
And yeah, because I came out and I was like top 100, and I'm like, I'm not a top 100 player of Hearthstone. I'm just here freaking early.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good times, and all this to say, I know the appeal and also the frustration that comes from like laddering. And holy cow, does it feel good when you stayed up and you've grinded for it? Like the rewards when you thought for something, like you don't see that a lot in life, because for me personally, I don't have a lot of things that I'm like so passionate about, but you see it in video games a lot. Like if
Mm-hmm.
people like, I wish there were more things in real life that were like a better translation, because in video games you will see people learn, you'll see them absolutely grind and work to get like some crate, to get some achievement, to get some rank. And then like it just, when you translate that to real life, I can think of maybe like one or two things in my life I care enough to like put that level of effort in for.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is like it's just so much more discreet. Like a ranking system is so much easier to understand whether or not you've hit your goal or not. Um and so you have like a thing that's very immediately rewarding and very immediately like you can latch onto. Um that just like justifies the work a lot easier versus yeah, I mean in real life it's there are versions of this. There's more versions of this the younger you are, right? There's like grades and stuff, okay. And then like
Hmm.
tests, getting into colleges, passing like exams, whatever. But like yeah, you lose it as you get older. I've wanted to make a video about this for a long time, but it's like a very grand subject. I think games are a very excellent way to trick people into becoming learners because what normally happens is that you want something and then you try and get it and then you realize, oh, I have to change myself to get this thing, and then you have
Yeah.
to reconcile with, okay, how am I going to change myself? Um and and then you start learning. You probably aren't, a lot of people probably are not learning effectively, but then honestly nowadays it's not most gamers, but there's definitely a huge swath of gamers online now who have gotten better and better at recognizing like what they need to do to get better in like a learning, like just a simple thing is that like growth mindset is so much more popular among gamers now than it used to be
Yeah.
because like enough people have gone through the like trials and what is it, trials and tribulations,
Tribulations. Yeah.
like enough people have gone because you go through the, I think that you have to only go through the process one time If you go through the process one time, that's enough to give you faith to do it a second time. But that one time, you
Mm.
have to hit all the beats. It has to be hard. You have to be forced to persevere and endure and self-reflect and identify specific things. If you grow, but it was easy or seamless, it already fell in line with your existing habits or whatever, it doesn't create that connection. But the first time you want something and then you can't get it, and then you have to work for it, and that work requires you to be a little bit introspective, it requires you to be a little bit deliberate, and you don't get the returns right away. You have to it takes you half a year of Donkey Kong or a full year of Donkey Kong, but then you do. When you finally get the reward, I feel like that it doesn't apply to everybody, but this was the case for me at least. That whole journey, you're like, "Oh man, that was sick." And now I have this whole experience that justifies like doing learning. And you can keep applying it to video games, but I think for me at least, it ended up carrying over to all other aspects of my life. Whereas like video games gave me the first opportunity, but then it was like, oh shit, I can apply this exact same mindset to literally anything. And that is
Mm.
like such a powerful experience because I think the education system, I don't want to get too into it, but I think like public education, even a lot of private education, just completely fails to deliver this experience. And so people grow up and they don't like learning. Like, people hate math. So many people have bad experiences with math. They hate math. If they had gotten the video game experience with math, if they had gotten, they didn't click with it, but they were forced to push through, not push, they like, oh man, my brain is going crazy. My point is just being that video games, because people like them, and it's just the interest is seamless. It tricks you into getting a learning experience, and once you've learned one place, you realize learning is the same everywhere. I'm repeating myself at this point, but I think it matters. I think it's important. I don't think that transfer to other topics, other subjects happens for free. I think there's a lot of people who are excellent learners when it comes to video games and haven't figured out or don't understand that that applies to other things. But the skills are still real. Learning skills are pretty universal. Um, you just have to get used to applying them to different contexts. But yeah, I think it's important. I think it's good. I think it's a strong defense of why video games are important and should be normalized. Because that was
Mm-hmm.
the case for me. It was fucking League of Legends. They gave me a rank system. I wanted to get better at League of Legends. I realized that if I'm like analytical, think about what I'm doing, what I could be doing better, take blame for things and not blame my teammates, I was actually able to reliably get better at the game. And then I applied that to like my studies once I got into college. I don't know. It all snowballed from there. And I have video games to thank because 8 years, 7 years, 17 years of school, not 17 years of school, but like up until I didn't play League like that until I was like 17. And up until that point in my life, school never gave me that experience. It never clicked.
Mm.
And then it finally did with video games. Sorry, that was a huge, massive tangent.
No, that's awesome. No, it's yeah, no, that's incredible. I don't I think I actually had that experience in school, but that was also because school actually didn't come very easy to me in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like I would always have to stick behind for like I took like mechanical physics and like calculus, which were like big stretch classes for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true. Okay, school came easy to me up until like the fifth grade, but I was at risk of being like that. Like you see it in all the Reddit threads, like the kid that like is praised for his intelligence, and then like when something's hard, they just like back down, and then they're like, "Oh no, like my identity's being questioned."
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like I would purposely take like I honestly have many memories, and sometimes I would do this just for fun in college, where like I would be like I wasn't fully sure on an answer, and I was like, well, I could wait 20 minutes, and there's a 2% chance it comes to me, or I can just turn in my test 20 minutes before everyone else, and just like get some sort of satisfaction out of this, and I would definitely do that. I was the kid that would always try and like just rush through. Like I wouldn't check my work. I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I just want to be the first one." And when it hits nice, but it's not like that's not like a great practice. But with physics and calc, I would always be the one to finish last. I like none of it came easy to me. It was so hard. But like just getting credit for those classes and coming out with like a grade that was enough to let me transfer it to my college credits was truly like one of the better feelings I've had in my life. Like that was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, school's not all shitty, but I do think it's I mean, I don't know.
No,
I'm
definitely
glad when
not.
it works out. I think it fails a lot more than it succeeds, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you could look at the general input of people post high school and stuff, and you would agree with that. I just got very lucky that I found something that like I enjoyed and interested me I somehow willed the patience and like wherewithal to go through. It wasn't like everything what like came from me, like which was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
weird because
It has
that
to be
like
from you. Yeah, it's the
yeah.
only way. Nobody can force you to have the learning experience. It doesn't because once an external party is involved, you're not a self-directed learner anymore. And like,
Mm,
I mean, because this happens to a million kids all the time. You get excellent at things as a child, as a youth, because you're put on the right tracks and they shuttle you along. And that's awesome, right? Like there's kids who are like amazing at piano. They got all the right instruction, they did all the right practice, and it that is what you need to do to get better, and they get better. But it doesn't give you a learner identity because you were a learner, but you didn't choose to be a learner in that situation, even if you enjoyed what you're doing. Um, I think you can be very philosophical about what learning even actually means, because it's not cut and dry what it means to learn something. But I think an important component is changing who you are as a person in service of
mm,
yourself. And I think that change necessitates um, change in ways that are not ordinary for you, because we can change, we have no choice but to change. We will change our entire lives up until the point we die. It's just how the human body works. um and some of that change will involve getting better at things, some of it will involve steeping into deeper into habits or whatever. But like really like wrestling that into the course correction that you want it to be, I think is core to the learner experience. Of like, no, under normal circumstances, this is not how I would change, but I am
right.
driving in this direction. I'm using the will I have to take me there. Um,
Mm,
and it's just, I don't know, I think it's such a liberating and powerful experience to realize how much you don't have a lot of control, but you have a surprising amount of control of what you're capable of. Like at least for me, I think it was very shocking to discover the boundaries of my abilities. Not that I'll reach every boundary. I don't have enough time in my lifetime, but you do it in one direction and you realize you can do it in other directions. Um, it's important. I want to segue in a similar fashion to this conversation. I have been seeing so many Sisyphus memes and references in the past like
mm.
2-ish years. And like they started like 2-ish years ago, and I feel like it's been ramping up. I see more and more people referencing Sisyphus for things. And I am super for it because there's a lot of ways you can interpret Sisyphus for people who don't know, but I think a lot of people know. Sisyphus, the myth of Sisyphus is from Greek mythology. It has to be Greek, right? It couldn't be anywhere else. I can't. It's
Yeah,
got to be
that's
Greek.
it's Greek
Um,
mythology. Yes.
Basically, this dude, he like, I don't even remember. He like dies, and then he like sneaks out of like uh the hell or whatever the Greek now, like he dies, but then he gets to return back to life on some technicality or something. And then when he's supposed to go back to being dead, he's like, I really like being alive, though. I kind of don't want to. And they're like, no, Sisyphus, come back. He's like, I don't know. I don't think so. Obviously, they do get him back. And so his punishment for like resisting death is he has to roll a boulder up a hill every day. And at the end of the day, the boulder always rolls all the way back down to the hill, and he has to do it. He has no choice but to do it. And just,
an example of this would be like making your bed every morning.
yeah. And so yeah, so there's a lot of interpretations of Sisyphus, but I think the most iconic, or the one to me that is the one that just makes the most sense, the one that I associate most strongly with the myth of Sisyphus is the are you familiar, Rich, with the book The Myth of Sisyphus?
I'm not actually.
So I have not read this book, to be clear. I've read excerpts from it. I think I understand the gist of it. It's written by this philosopher. I'll try and say his name correctly because he's French. Albert Camus, spelled Albert Camus, if you said it without a French accent. Albert Camus. He's this philosopher. He wrote a book about. He's written a lot of books, but one of his books is this essay called "The Myth of Sisyphus." It's one of his most famous works. And it's his philosophical interpretation of the story. And he has this like branch of philosophy called I think it's called absurdism, something like that. And the gist is that you have this realization that life is kind of meaningless. In particular, it's absurd. To just like exist in this world, you have to do stuff that is kind of the more you think about it, the harder it is to like justify what it actually means, justify why you have to do it. But you just have to do things in life for the sole purpose of just existing. That's all you get from it. It comes from like a similar line of thought as like nihilism, right? Like, what is the point of anything? Everything is meaningless. There's you can't reasonably attribute any reason for living to anything. So nihilism takes that and then goes, so fuck everything. Everything sucks. Everything's awful, and you can do anything because everything's bad. But Camus takes it and he's like, okay, nothing matters. So that means that you're free to do whatever you want, assuming you prescribe to the idea that nothing matters, so you don't have some faith in some like higher power or something that would ascribe some meaning to life. Assuming you're not that, you get to do whatever you want. If nothing matters, you're free to do anything, because you've chosen not to off yourself, for lack of a better word, because that would be saying that life's not worth living. You've chosen not to ascribe some kind of faith-based meaning to life, so you're open to different interpretations of what it means. You can do whatever you want. And so if you can do whatever you want, what should you do? You should love what you do. You should love life. You should love the world. That's his rational conclusion for how things should be. I wrote down in our notes, here are the last three lines, the translated lines of The Myth of Sisyphus, is the last three sentences of the book. He writes, each atom of that stone, the boulder, each mineral flake of that night-filled mountain, in itself forms a world. The struggle itself toward the height is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. He's basically saying, like, even though nothing matters, the experience of just trying to like navigate life, just trying to move forward, that is the individual has an entire world of experience and beauty to like you are so unique. Your mind is so unique. Everything you engage with ever is there's so much there that can fulfill any need and any reason to live. Um and even though Sisyphus pushes the boulder up every day, why the fuck you have to push the boulder up every day? It doesn't matter. Every push, the grind it's filling his heart. There's something there because every little thing has something. I don't know. I feel this so intensely because it's a huge motif of like my main channel. Everywhere I look in every facet of life, no matter what it is, it's a remarkable trend. You find people who just love things, stupid, random things. Why do people love Super Smash Bros. Melee so intensely? Why do people love crocheting so intensely? Why can you find a random dude who is just obsessed with the patterns on the backs of frogs to the point that that's his life's work? Every little facet of life, you find people who find love in that place. I can't find it I can't not find it anywhere. It always exists. I don't think this applies to everyone. I don't think Camus answers all people's philosophical needs. But I think he speaks to an increasing sentiment that's getting more popular of just like, if it doesn't matter, if it's all meaningless, then just figure out what makes you fucking happy, that makes you feel love, and just lean into that shit. And you'll live a life that's meaningful in and of itself because of just you pursuing that. Doesn't matter if there's no grand thing. I don't know. I just think it's awesome. I think it's a gateway drug into absurdist philosophy, which gives you I think it's an ultimately optimistic but measured view of the world. It doesn't answer all of your questions. I think it probably needs to be balanced with other philosophical ways of thinking, but I'm so Sisyphus-Pilled, dude.
There's something both so empowering but also so scary about the fact that like we are the ones that prescribe meaning to our life,
Yeah.
like because we're also unreliable narrators and unreliable like like how I feel about something 10 days ago could drastically vary on how I feel about something like as I am right now, and that could also literally change by the hour. I don't know why I said days. Like things can change very quickly. And so it's like it makes sense, but when your lens for like viewing the world like can be so altered by your emotions, and we're not robots, we're humans, like there's some amount of like, I don't know, it's also a little intimidating. It's a little scary to me too.
Yeah. I mean, it's
a burden.
I should read his full work because I'm curious. I know he has something. I don't remember what he talks at some point. I don't even think it's part of his philosophy. I think it's more of like his method of approaching things. But if I remember correctly, he's very self-skeptical for the reasons that you outline. Being that like how it's like some line of his like approach to philosophy is like, okay, if I can't trust myself, but I can like only know myself, how do I navigate that? I don't understand it well enough. I have this like love-hate relationship with philosophy because I think it always sucks you in because you're just curious, You're like, how could things maybe work? But there's an inherent futility to it because it'll never actually answer your questions. It'll just give you new ways of looking at things. But
yeah,
the whole point is that you can't actually know. And that can get frustrating when the stuff you read about doesn't like satisfy you personally. I think philosophy is very selfish, right? The stuff that resonates with you is stuff that already treads, like it's stuff that you already can digest, that you already like. And sometimes you read a line of philosophy, you're like, I hate that people think this way because I don't think this way.
Yeah. It makes me wonder how my life would be if I like were to look at a philosophy that I disagree with and then tried my best to like live it as an experience like for like a week or like a month or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something. And then after that, I'm just like, would I start to see? I think, of course, you'd probably start to see some merit in it, but would it forever be incorporated, or would you just be like, yeah, no, that's not really core to who I am. Like, I'm never gonna think about this again.
That
Like,
is an interesting
it's
question.
interesting to me.
I
Yeah.
I think oh, I mean, certainly it depends on the person. In a weird way, I do feel like, so what I think what you would expect is like you were saying, like, yeah, you would certainly pick up on the values. You would certainly pick out on the like lens of seeing things. I think you would get used to that. You would get acclimated to that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I feel like, oh, it's so hard to disentangle because you have the lifespan of experiences built into like your brain, and so it's hard to say what is like innate or not. But
Right.
I think I think your philosophical view is a little bit like religion, where you believe if you believe, you don't if you don't.
Mm.
Like there's gonna be it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to say, but like I think y like people convert religions, but some people, they believe their entire life, they don't believe their entire life or whatever. And like if you ask like certain like Christians to live as uh as like Buddhists or something, they might get a lot out of it, but it might not necessarily change their faith. I don't know, it's a little bit weird. I don't Religion's maybe not the best example because it's kind of dying out, so that has some that kind of, it's got to mean something, right? Like
Yeah.
anthropologically. um
Religion's also interesting too because it's like kind of philosophical, but it's like much more prescriptive than other
well, it's
mainstream
it's
philosophies.
so Camus calls it like philosophical suicide, which is pretty dramatic, but the idea is you're deferring to an authority to what to believe, right?
Right.
You're saying,
Right.
I'm not going to work out the philosophy myself, I'm going to give somebody else the responsibility of doing that. It's a
That's true
little
because
intense, to call it that. uh I think
yeah, well, you don't win a Nobel Peace Prize without making a couple like bold-faced, like a couple like drastic quotes like that, you
yeah,
know. You need a couple of those.
I think he just likes the elegance of contrasting like physical suicide with like a more, philosophical suicide, because the yeah,
Yeah, it's visceral.
yeah, yeah. Not trying to chastise any religious listeners. You believe what you want, I think it's all good. um but yeah,
To put
we're
a final bow on that philosophy, it rem- it remind philosophies kind of remind me of like if I were to like go to the mechanic because my car is like has like an oil leak or something, and they teach me how to like use a wrench, and they teach me like about like what oil is, and they teach me a bunch of stuff. But then they're like, now it's on me to like figure out where to like apply it properly, and that like is obviously gonna take trial and error, and like I risk like damaging my car further if I like apply it
that is
incorrectly.
a,
Like
yeah, good analogy.
it's just like let me just fix the fucking car.
That's
Yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
that's a very learning pilled metaphor. Because sometimes you do
So
have to risk breaking the car, and it's like, what the hell? Why you have to risk breaking the car? Why is that the best way to fix the car? That doesn't make sense. But indeed,
can I ask one topic to finish us off here?
yeah, yeah,
Um, I saw that you had been mentioning Sparks Fly by Miranda Cosgrove, and I just think something light to just cap us off would be
okay. I
curious,
want
or
to do
maybe there's
one
some deep meaning
quick
behind
thing,
it.
and then I'll talk
Go
about
for
that.
it.
Um,
Perfect.
there was a tweet recently that went around Twitter that was the quote is, "Does anyone have any useful sentences that will change my life immediately upon being read?" Which is a hilarious
Oh,
tweet. But so a lot of people quote tweeted and gave their lines. You get some mix of like stuff that's like just not that profound. Like you're just gonna know it if you're a certain age or if you've had certain life experiences. It mixed with some like really solid stuff, mixed with just jokes. And I wanted to share a couple of the ones that I thought were pretty good because
Yeah, I love
yeah,
this.
it's so I put it in the notes. It's literal wisdom of the crowds. um
Oh, okay.
so here, uh if everyone hates you, it's time to sleep. If you hate everyone, it's time to eat. If you hate yourself, it's time to shower. It's a more actionable touch grass. I like that one a lot. If you're trying to love yourself, you already do. Where do you think that trying comes from? I'm a big subscriber of that belief
Oh,
of like, if you care enough to beat yourself up, you're already doing a good job.
yeah.
Because you're already trying your hardest if that's the case. Just keep going. Just keep going. Uh this one is a little bit boring, but it is true. No love, however brief, is wasted. Yeah, yeah. um
Yeah.
Being alive is as special an occasion as it gets. That's nice for people who need a little bit of hope. Oh,
It's
this is a
kind of
good
also
one.
it's
Oh,
kind of absurdist a little bit like what Albert Camus was talking
Camus.
about too.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's true. I think it's true. It's I don't know. I had I was reading some of my little journal spiels the other day, and one of them that struck me is from like a while ago. I wrote like, I think I'm not going to handle death yet because I'm gonna have a lot more that I want to do in life. And then I had another line that was like, but also like most people don't handle death well, so that's probably normal. But like, oh my god, I want to do so. I want to just experience the breadth of what life has to offer, and I know I can't do everything, but I just love seeing all the different things that people love, and feeling it for myself. Okay, I'll
Hmm.
do like two or three more. This one was one of the most popular, I think it's very salient nowadays. If you don't pick a day to rest, your body will pick it for you. That one is uber
Yeah,
omega true.
so
Um,
true.
and then okay, this is the last one I'll do. Somebody says, so it's a screenshot. The first line is, "This is gonna take 3 years," and the response is, "The time will pass anyways." I thought that was a cute little quip. It's true. It doesn't matter if it's gonna take a long time. You're gonna take a long time. But yeah, I thought those were fun. Just fun little things. We'll talk about Miranda Cosgrove's Sparks Fly. I don't have too much to say here. I have this weird fascination with the album Sparks Fly by Miranda Cosgrove. Of course, the lead actress of
iCarly?
iCarly. Great theme song, by the way. In five, or is
Four,
it in three? Yeah, whatever.
three,
Two,
two.
one. Da, da, da. Okay. Anyways, so in 2010, she released this album called Sparks Fly. Maybe it's her only album. I'm not sure. The lead single on that album is "Kissin' You." Amazing song title, and "Kissin' You" is like a certified like slapper. It's just a good song. Like in terms of pop songs, it's not like a it's not like a innovative or rich song, but like it's a good song in that like you hear it and it's catchy and it's fun. Um,
Hmm.
and then at some point in college when I was like 2021 or something, I don't know, 2021, I was like, what are the other songs on this album like? So here's this one song that has this nostalgia factor. It's from the 2010s. But what's the rest of the album like? And I listened to the entire album, and it's not a good album. Generously, it's like a 6 out of 10. Realistically, it's somewhere between a 4 and a 5. Um, and it's not even that catchy. but I have listened to that album probably like a dozen times. And I think the reason
Wow.
is because it's this weird time capsule of a very raw like 2010s pop sound. The album is just this hodgepodge of songs that like whoever her manager or whoever it was who convinced her to release an album, whoever was in charge, they thought that this is like the net you have to cast to get a hit, and they got one. Kissing You Stuck, they got a hit. But the other songs were not hits. I mean, some of them, have a couple million plays on Spotify or something, probably for the nostalgia factor. But it's just this random assortment of music. There's like a Taylor Swift like song. There's a song on there that, while I understand it's really not a K-pop song, it's probably more just a product of being a pop song, and K-pop overlaps with pop, especially at that time. If you imagine the lyrics substituted with Korean lyrics, at least in my head, it makes a lot of sense, and it's just weird to have that on the album. Um, there's a song called Disgusting on the album, which was supposed to be a Kesha song that got nixed, and they just gave it to her. Almost every song on the album has a completely different set of producers. I know because at one point I looked through, and they're all, I don't want to be rude, but none of them are like super successful, but they are industry people. They're like, I don't know, C-list producers. They have hits. None of them have huge Omega hits, but a lot of them have songs with like well-established artists. Like there's gonna be somebody on there who worked with Katy Perry. There's gonna be somebody on there who worked with like, I don't know, Neo or whatever. These are people. These are real professionals, not the top of. They're no Benny Blancos. Dude, Benny Blanco, he was like trying to make a transition to being a solo artist. Did he stop? Did he go back to just making like top charting hits?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
I
I only know him more as a personality because he's friends with a couple of people in like TV shows I watch. Like he's good friends with what's his name? Lil Dicky, Dave.
That's right. He was on Dave.
Apparently he has a good TV show. Apparently his show's actually good. I don't know.
Dave, the first season of Dave is really good. The second season of Dave is honestly not worse. It's maybe like a step below, but you're just kind of you get used to the shtick by the second season.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't mix things up enough, but it's a good show. Benny Blanco's, well, because he's, just look up his producer credits. He has been on a lot of Omega.
Yeah, no, he's
super
incredibly
songs.
Talented. Yeah.
Yeah. He's an excellent producer. There's this like interview quote from a long time ago, like 10 years ago, where he's like, I genuinely believe I can produce anything. He was like, I think I could make the best polka song ever.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got it. He's very talented. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also dating Selena Gomez, I think.
No way. Are you serious?
I'm pretty sure.
That's what the internet says? That's crazy.
That's what the internet says. Yeah.
He's
He's a personality. He's very zany.
Yeah,
I enjoy people that are zany.
Yeah. Dude, if Benny Blanco had been on Sparks Fly, Miranda Cosgrove would have had another fire hit.
Would be her music trajectory would have been a different story.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's the album. I don't know. I just, something about it, it's just so, it's so disjointed. There's so much incongruence in the sound, and it's Miranda Cosgrove, who's just kind of like, what am I trying to say? She's just like an interesting person. How do I put this? Miranda Cosgrove, I'm curious how you feel. It's not that she's like a meme of a person, but at least for people our age, I feel like there's something about her that's not like a joke or unserious, but she started off as a sister on Drake and Josh who always said boob. Then iCarly dropped, and iCarly was kind of sick, but now it has like the Dan Schneider stuff attached to it.
Yeah.
And like, she's like ethnically ambiguous. I know that's a weird thing to bring up, but there weren't a lot of like ethnically ambiguous people on TV for a long time. I don't know. Something about her is it's like a weird flavor of nostalgia. She has a weird flavor of nostalgia attached to her, and she's still a relevant person now. I don't know if you've heard the stories about how like some dude tried to kill her. She's almost talking about it on podcast. Some guy like tried to
Oh
murder
wow.
her, like
Oh
straight up
no.
murder her.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
good.
but whenever she tells the story, she's all chipper about it, and the disjoint there is like very entertaining. She'll be
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, so somebody tried to kill me," ha ha ha, ha. And the podcast hosts are like, "Oh, what?"
Oh. I feel like I would probably be the same way if someone tried to kill
Yeah, I mean
me
that's
if
the
I had a
only
little bit
way
of time.
forward, right? You have to joke about
Yeah.
it. The absurdity of the
Yeah.
situation is too compelling.
Well, I'm happy that she's still alive and kicking it and clearly making the rounds on her podcast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good for her. Maybe next Lil Res guest, we'll reach out to Miranda.
Dude, I would love to have
That
Miranda
would
Cosgrove
be a
on the
dream.
podcast.
That would be a dream.
That would be fire.
That would be a once in a lifetime experience to sit down and have a curated 1 hour conversation with Miranda. Wow.
Yeah.
One day, one day. When this like is massive and like the biggest podcast like in the world, obviously, we'll like play this clip of like we used to be like this and now we're here. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, the intro for
the like the
that
videos
episode.
of like Mr. Beast like being like he's like a 14, 15-year-old speaking into the camera. He's like, I'm gonna be the biggest YouTuber ever. That was actually crazy that he called his own shot like that.
Oh, dude,
Good for
yeah.
him.
No,
He
yeah.
clearly wanted
We don't
it.
need to go on the Mr. Beast tangent, but he's built for it.
No.
I don't know. You can't
Yeah.
not respect him. I mean, I get the criticism, but you can't not respect him because he clearly worked for it and he clearly had the right mentality and everything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think we're at time. That's probably been an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day I
Been
want
a
to
great
try.
hour chatting with you.
One day I want to try doing an hour and a half. I just want to see how it feels. But not today. We don't. I know it's not Richard's birthday today. I don't know, I'm leaking a little bit. It's your birthday month. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So you got a birthday event coming.
Got some celebrations.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us with everybody. I'm so blanking. What do we do? Oh, goodbye now.
Goodbye. No.